Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. The Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the show where we are discussing the film Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny 3 minutes at a time. My name is Tom Taylor.
My name is Pete, definitely off by more than 10 degrees Mummert.
I'm Gerald Christopher. Your calculations are wrong, Porter.
And we are joined today by our old buddies who are veterans of too many Movies by Minutes shows to even count. But right now they are the hosts of the Captain America Minute. We've got Hal Bryan and Jim O'Kane. Welcome, fellas.
Thanks very much, Tom. Great to be here.
Much appreciated. I don't know if it's too many or just enough, or hopefully this will be.
I don't mean too many, like, we'd be here all day, and it's a good thing. It's better to just find them and listen to them yourself.
It's a Goldilocks amount.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Right in the zone.
Yes. Somebody's been sleeping in my podcast. We are here today with these fine gentlemen to discuss minutes 124 through 126 of Dial of Destiny, and these begin with Helena sneaking onto the Nazi plane after having climbed up the landing gear, Captain America style, by the way. Elsewhere on the plane, Indy sits fascinated by how sloppy the Nazis are and how all their stuff is just skittering and sliding around. A light bulb goes off over his head, and he starts berating Fuller about continental drift and how Archimedes wouldn't have any knowledge of it at his time, which means that Fuller's staff is too long and he's not going to show up in 1939. As they approach the bright vortex in the clouds, Fuller yells for them to turn back, abort, but it's too late. They're being pulled through. Meanwhile, in Tiddley's stolen plane, the owner wakes up and starts yelling at him just as both planes fly through the vortex and suddenly lose power. And after some free falling and tossing around and tumbling, the minutes end with the Nazi pilots furiously trying to restart the engines. This is exciting. We're going back in time, everybody.
There's a lot happening in this chunk of three, isn't there?
When you do it 3 minutes at a time, it gets busy.
I'm struck fairly early on in this. So Indy is talking about continental drift. In 1969, continental drift was still not crazily widely accepted. I mean, it like even into the late 50s, it was not widely accepted in academia. And it took a long time for it to catch on and then, be superseded by plate tectonics. But I feel like this is pretty cutting edge science for Indy to be talking about. And I'm curious, is he up on scientific research? This is a surprising turn for me.
Well, were there many geologists at Hunter College? I don't know if he was just sitting in or listening to the people next door. It's a science and history.
Yeah, it's like the College of Arts and Sciences. There's
Like cocktail party talk.
Yeah, maybe.
How about that continental drift?
But this is one of those, and I'm not alone, but this is one of the elements of the movie that confused me from the very first time I saw the movie to now. Like, I haven't gotten any more clarity on it. I used the internet, the World Wide Web, to look up how much a continent might drift, quote unquote, in 2,000 years, and it's about 40 meters.
Yeah, it's not much.
It's not much. But regardless, so you wouldn't think that would affect any calculations very much. And I know we're talking about like a crazy dial that makes you go back in time and stuff, and what kind of science are we talking about? But if a physical space is shifted a little bit from where it was 2,000 years ago, would that make any difference, according to Archimedes' dial, where you ended up in time, as opposed to like couldn't he show up like 5 feet from Munich instead of right over Munich in 1939, right? You know what I mean? Like, I know he's going to end up in Sicily, but like, it doesn't seem like that would affect the time where he's going. We haven't heard anything about that.
He's also spiraling through the galaxy, and I don't think he understood the concept of a galaxy at the time, too.
Right,
so,
right.
You might as well wind up in, Rigel or something. Some star on a different,
if you're lucky.
Whatever, 2,000 light years away, maybe. Who knows?
Well, so is it possible that Indy is just, spewing his own chaos? Because what he's doing here is he's getting Fuller to, he's getting him to second guess, and he's
But
stopping.
why?
And then he's
Why is he doing that? Like, why? If Fuller is not going to the right place to change history and let the Nazis win, why is Indy trying to stop him? That's what I don't understand.
See, and I took that as Jerry was saying, he's spewing chaos, and maybe he's going to get him to just chicken out and turn around. That's how I always.
Or at the very least,
not that I gave this a lot of thought, to be honest.
It could be a massive distraction on the plane. He's got now there's like there's an internecine fighting going on between like Kleber and Fuller, and he's turn it around, and then Kleber comes back and socks Indy, and it's like, okay, this could be the sort of thing where he's Indy could take advantage of the fact that everybody is wildly distracted, and maybe he's going to grab a gun or push somebody out the window.
I read this entirely differently. Like, to me, this was just Indy-splaining. Like, he was so happy to know something that they didn't, that even if it helped him, he was going to tell them how much he knew.
Well, I even have a slight twist from that. I agree with you, Pete, that he is just sort of like excited that he figured something out that these dummies didn't know. But I think he's just sort of excited that they're screwing up, and that he's going to witness them screwing up. Like, I don't think it's tactical at all. I don't think he's trying to get the advantage. Exactly. He's like, okay, all right, dummies. I guess I'm going back in time with you. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm chained up here, but you guys are going to lose, and it's funny.
But if Fuller had made a decision immediately, he might have been able to rectify it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
But Tom, I think I agree with you about he's basically just picking up the ant farm and shaking it. He wants to,
yeah. By the way, I have a note here that Jerry is terrified of Indy yells/laughing that his calculations are wrong. Every time I watch that for the show, I'm like, that bothers Jerry. Jerry doesn't like seeing that.
I have to say, I love the satisfaction and glee that Indy takes with this, and I think he, if he is Indy-splaining and he really does believe that this is going to mess up their plans, and they're not going to, wind up, spit out in 1939 over Germany or whatever. It's a foregone conclusion he's going to die. And it's like he's in his mind, and it's like, we're just going to die. You guys are going to be wrong, and we're going to die, in the forest, like under Charlemagne or something.
Right.
It's just going to be really fun and really bizarre, and you dumb Nazis, Yeah,
and he doesn't know that Fleabag's on the plane, right? I don't.
No, he doesn't.
No,
okay,
he doesn't.
Yeah.
No. He does. So let me ask you: is that like the worst possible thing you can say to a scientist? Your calculations are wrong.
What'd you say about my mother? You son.
Dark matter, my butt. Yeah.
Well, I've got a plane question for the two plane guys. Right before Indy says that, there's a gorgeous shot, like a long shot of the two planes heading towards the rift. And it's like a very sort of sad and lonely shot because of these tiny little planes against this giant rift. But it's beautiful because you can see the slipstreams. And my question is, when is that visible? Like, what has to happen for those to be visible like that?
The slipstream behind it?
Yeah.
Now, we're talking like off the wingtips or like contrails coming out of the engine exhaust.
To me, it looked like it was slipstreams off the wing trips.
I think it didn't look like
contrails.
Yeah. So basically, you're talking about a situation where there's high humidity and high drag and high lift. So like if you ever go to an air show on a slightly humid day, and you'll see a jet out there pulling G's and doing really, really tight turns and things like that. And so you end up with, you'll see that sort of thing exaggerated. You'll see it going as almost like a shock wave sort of working back across the fuselage. But off the wingtips and things, it's primarily, that's an area where the wings are generating lift. We're generating a lot of lift. It's usually when the airplane is slower and it's a high angle attack on the wing. And then the air is moving out across the wing and then moving off the wingtips. And when it's humid enough, you actually see those little trails. If it's conditions are just right, you actually see those not just as little lines, but you'll see ever like expanding corkscrew trails coming off of
Okay,
there.
yeah.
So
yeah, wow.
So there you go.
Did we talk about what kind of plane? What is the plane that they're flying?
So what they're in is it's fictitious, but it's I know this is sacrilege. It's more plausible than the Flying Wing and Raiders. in terms of something that would actually fly. So what they're in here, from the nose about like maybe half to two-thirds of the way back along the fuselage, it's very much a Heinkel 111 bomber. On the outside. On the inside, the cockpit and stuff's actually quite good for a Heinkel 111, but there's sort of too much space. It's too big in the inside, but that's pretty typical when you're filming. Now, the Heinkel 111 doesn't have those little twin tails, so that's like they took a Messerschmitt 110 and sort of grafted that on the back. So it's a very nice job of making something that sort of could have been, but just didn't happen to ever be.
Yeah, it's one of those secret weapons of the Luftwaffe.
Yeah, exactly. Swaddle from LucasArts.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was hoping. Hal, I know that you probably know this plane, but the Blohm & Voss, the BV-141, it was an asymmetric plane. Yeah. And I was hoping that they would, if they were going to go with something crazy, it's like we had the P-38, which always looks like a bizarre way to build an airplane, but the BV-141, it was never built, but it was designed like 44 or 45, so they didn't have the parts for it. But what it was the fuselage was on the right-hand side, and I can't quite describe it, but the tail went from the front left to the back, and it was just, but it was like counterbalanced, and it was supposed to be so they could land on water, and you didn't have to. It was basically like a catamaran of a plane.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because you had that engine pod offset on one side, and you look at a plan view or a top view of it, and it looks like everything is too far off to one side. But like the way the weights are balanced and everything else,
it is kind of like the Millennium Falcon.
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when I look at it, when I see this, like when they first showed the plane a few minutes ago in like the hangar, the front of it at least it looks just to me like the Red Skull's crazy plane at the end of Captain America. You haven't got? I hope I haven't spoiled anything. I know you haven't gotten to that.
We have mentioned that there's an airplane at the end of the film.
But it's got a similar kind of like many paned cockpit.
It's kind of like an ultra. It's like a B-17 on steroids. Just
or B-29. The B-29 that inspired a lot of the Falcon cockpit. And you just saw, at that time, you're building bombers. We need a lot of visibility out the front. We need a spot for the navigator. We need a spot for the bombardier. We want as much glass up there as possible. We can't really do a nice, full glass cone or something, so you get those faceted looks, and so you get the Millennium Falcon, the TIE fighter type cockpits, both the German side, the Allied side, and the Soviets kept doing it, even with airliners, well into at least the 60s.
Were they glass or were they plexiglass, or what did they make those out of?
See, that's a really good question. My assumption would be like on the German side, it would have been actually facets of glass. You saw the British using what was it? Lexan or Perspex? Yeah, Perspex, exactly. I'm not sure how prevalent that was on the German side, but I know on a lot of the German aircraft, like I've sat in a Messerschmitt 109 cockpit, and it's very, very single seat fighter, very, very small faceted area around you for that canopy. But that glass it's solid glass, and it feels like it's an inch and a half thick or something. So it's meant to be a bit protective and stuff.
Now, what about Sam Wainwright's soybean-based plastic from It's a Wonderful Life? Did that ever? Which nation used that the most?
Unfortunately, the war ended and they couldn't bring it out. Okay. One of the things. The reason I was thinking of, I just watched Dial again yesterday. Yeah, as we were getting out the show, I decided, I'll watch that yesterday. But the reason I was thinking that the 141, that asymmetric thing, the reason that they wanted to build it that way was to give their gunner some room to turn around, kind of like at the beginning of this movie when you're watching the cannon that's mounted on the tender, and you could shoot every which way. That's the reason they were going to build this asymmetrical thing, so you'd have this big field of fire that you could just. You didn't have to worry about shooting the tail off like
that's smart.
Like in Last Crusade. They got us. Yeah, exactly. And just quickly, not that anybody has asked, but the aircraft that Short Round 2.0 is flying behind them it would have been a Messerschmitt or a BF, Bayerische Flugzeugwerke 108.
Okay.
So we hear about the 109. That's the famous German fighter, and this was. There's not necessarily all that many parts in common or anything, but the 108 was sort of the 4-seat, like touring or station wagon version of the single seat fighter. It was meant for short transport and stuff. Those were
Would it
go
have been
ahead.
war surplus at this point? Like, would it have just been?
It would have been, although I think the one that they actually use, because unlike the fictitious bomber, if I'm remembering correctly, we do see a few shots like at the airport of the real airplane, and so the 108 is very much a real airplane. And like a lot of the German designs, they were built. So like Messerschmitt's Design Bureau (BF) moved a lot of their production to occupied France. And so they were building 108s there during the war. The war ends, and now that company Nord sort of reforms as a French company.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They've got this tooling, they've got the parts, they know what to do, so they just keep making them. The same thing happened with the Spanish, the Heinkel 111, which the bomber is mostly. They built those like after the war. They were building them sort of under license in a partnership with Germany, with fascist government. And the war ends. They said, well, it's a good airplane. We'll just keep building them. We just don't have to pay royalties anymore because the Nazis lost. So, any surviving Heinkel 111s are generally, there was one that was flying many years ago, and there's one that's close to being restored again, are post-war Spanish-built versions with British engines, but they're still effectively the same airplane.
Wait a minute.
Sorry.
You're saying that? Do you say they didn't have to pay anybody any like copyright, whatever? Because since the Nazis lost, they're like, yeah, we're just gonna take their ideas and just run with it.
They don't have banks anymore.
Yeah,
they don't have
dollars or Deutschmarks.
Yeah, say Jerry, if you can say that in French, I think you've got it. I think that's how. I don't know how you do that in a Gallic accent. Jim's got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Put on a striped sweater and a play a tiny little accordion as you do.
While we've got the airplane hood up, I just want there's a previous minute that annoyed me, and I know there's a bunch of anachronisms, and I'm sure you've gone over them in graphic detail.
Stop it.
But there's a scene when Indy's on the Pan Am plane. He's on a 707, and there's people walking back and forth. They're putting stuff in the overhead compartments, and there weren't overhead compartments in 1969.
Interesting.
The PSU, the passenger service unit, that's up. The thing that you have the knob on it and the button to call the stewardess.
Yeah.
Everything above that was just a rack. They were usually
Wow.
pikes. And you can watch this in the famous 1970 movie Airport, directed by Ross Martin.
And then if you like that movie, you can listen to the Airport Minute podcast.
That's
starring
true.
Jim
Yeah.
Murphy.
And when you're done with that, you can go over to the Andromeda Strain Minute and listen to the discussion about the 707, which is the same model that was used in Airport. But yeah, the PS little, everybody has their own peccadillos, and
Of course.
but it was nice seeing the Pan Am building the Pan Am
That
terminal.
was
as
and
it
cool
was.
seeing him.
You could maybe answer a question for us that we had from those minutes. Is Indy... Pete took Indy to task for not only ditching Sala and not buying him a plane ticket, but also he wondered if maybe he was saving that money so he could fly first class.
Ooh.
And I wondered if maybe that's just what a airplane seat looked like back then. Like that was like there maybe wasn't first class and
They were
steerage or whatever.
Yeah, Pan Am had 3 and 3 in the back, so he was sitting in a 2 and 2, so he must have been in first class.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice.
It was,
Okay.
Yeah, the 707 was 2 and 2 first, 3 and 3 in coach. So
I'm sorry I asked.
I'm not. In our museum at work, we've got somebody many years ago donated some of those. I always call them the travel agency models, and Jim, I know you know what I'm talking about. Those. So you've got an airliner in whichever airline's livery, and it's 6 or 7 feet long, a pretty substantial model on a big stand. And we've got one of them, if I remember right, it's Lufthansa, but it's 707. And it's a cutaway model with clear
cool.
plastic down the side, and you can look in there, and there's 100 little HO people in there, and of course, the men are in suits and ties and fedoras, and they're playing cards and eating their steak off their fine china and stuff.
Anybody sitting nervously with an attaché case.
Ted Stryker's up front, and he's really sweating.
Pouring Gatorade in his face.
You guys know all about flying and that kind of stuff, and I'm sure you've thought quite a bit about flying in the 70s and 80s, where people used to get dressed up, and it was you if you met the captain, it was a big deal, and he gave you wings, and it was an event. They'd serve you like Salisbury steak on the on the for dinner on the thing, and all of that is completely gone. And now you I mean, unless maybe you're flying first class or something. But now flying, it kind of feels like you're on a Greyhound bus.
Hmm.
And I'm asking, do you think overall it's better or worse? Because like I imagine there's a lot more places to fly. It's a lot easier. If you're in Philadelphia and you want to get to Japan or Amsterdam, like you can. You can. There's thousands and thousands of flights, but let's say that you're going to be crammed and you're going to be sitting there next to a guy who's eating chili cheese Fritos. How do you
Yeah.
view this over the last 50 or 60 years, like the culture of flying?
I can I take this one, Hal? Is that all right?
I'll let you go
You-
first.
you-
Then
yeah,
I'll follow.
yeah, no, he'll
We're
follow.
both airline brats, though.
Yeah, we are both airline brats, and we know just for those people who do not understand what it's like having an employee in your family that works for the airlines. We were both non-revs, which is basically it's a step below luggage, and I think still to this day, although thanks to what my mom had worked on yield management, you will no longer find empty seats on a plane. If you don't have all of a plane filled, they just move in a smaller plane and fill up all the seats. But when Hal and I were younger and going on non-rev flights, we were the last ones on the plane. He usually wound up in the middle, the D or the B or the E seats on a plane in the back next to the labs, and you had to dress up. You would never wear jeans. You would never wear. You had to wear. I mean, and if you were lucky enough to get in first, you better have on a jacket and tie. So, and to answer Jerry's question, yes and no. It's the I hope that was clear. The thing is, you get what you pay for. I mean, prices of airlines have dropped down to almost nothing. You can
Right,
save a
sure.
fortune and wind up on a YouTube video when you're watching somebody getting hauled off the plane because they're in an altered state or something like that. But you only paid $89 to get to Miami, so
Right.
and if it's like you feel the whole place smells like a laundromat, but you're it's like, what do you want for $70? Like you said, go Greyhound or go pick a discount flight.
I mean, you can find these flights. You fly to like Chile for like $384 or something.
Yeah, and it's like Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
You
right,
get
yeah.
in with the chickens, and you'll be fine. It's a long loche. But yeah, it's and. If you want to, there are. I mean, you can go on amazing flights. If you go on Emirates, Emirates is like checking into a 5-star hotel. I mean, you basically get a bed and you get a TV and you get handed a PlayStation 5 that you can play with or go to sleep. And they come out with steak and shrimp, but it's going to cost you maybe 5 figures on some of the flights.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I concur completely with what Jim said. Although I will say, with our experience when I was a kid at flying, as non-revenue, some noticeable percentage of the time, maybe not, certainly not a majority of the time. Like by the time I was a teenager and stuff, my dad had been with the company for a long time. He had a ton of seniority. So we found that for the most part, if there were going to be seats left over, and we got bumped plenty of times. I've had weird layovers. I've spent a lot of unplanned nights in Denver. But if there were seats left over, we would, because of Dad's seniority, we would tend to get on before most of the other non-revs. And I would guess maybe not as much as a third of the time, somewhere 20-25% of the time, it would be first class that was undersold back then.
Yeah.
So we certainly got into first here and there, but part of it, Jim called out, is, the whole thing. I had to be in a jacket and tie, Dad and my brothers had to be in jackets and ties. Mom had to be in a nice dress. And, even if we're just on our own and you're just going to take whatever seat's available. I mean, I didn't wear a pair of jeans on an airplane until I was 25.
Yeah, me too.
Even before that, even when it was a little bit more relaxed, it was still sort of Dockers and a button-up shirt. And then I remember finally sort of giving in. It felt weird. Okay, I'm going to wear jeans on this flight. And of course, I'm looking across the aisle, and there's a guy there in basketball shorts and an ill-fitting tank top with his shoes and socks off. peeling a Band-Aid off his big toe. And I'm just sitting there sighing, the romance of Venice, basically the romance of modern air travel.
I hope you're like, hey, did you get your wings from the captain?
Yeah,
exactly.
Did you go up front yet?
Why did you go up there and ask him?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, you have to balance it out. And Jerry, I think you're absolutely right. The choices, the prices, the way that it has shrunk the world, the opportunities. I mean, as much as I will be a pretentious curmudgeon and say I miss those days, and damn it, you ought to dress up, and it was so much nicer and fine china, and you had a menu to order off of. Realistically, I mean, I could never have afforded to travel like that, paying full price. That's for sure, and any kind of regularity. So I have to admit, Jerry, I think you absolutely nailed it. That the good outweighs the bad. But I still think you ought to leave your shoes and socks on.
Yeah, it's basic decorum.
If you've got to remove a Band-Aid, just go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember smoking sections.
Oh,
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
And playing
Well, that was the whole plane, wasn't it? I mean,
Not technically.
yeah.
But like
No,
I
the
was
smoke
as a
stops
kid, I
right
was
between aisles 17 and 18.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I loved as a kid. I was like, my parents would be mad at me because I couldn't stop playing with the ashtrays. Like that little
Oh, the little
mechanism
flippy
was
thing.
so-
Yeah.
yeah.
It was. I can remember as a kid being on an American Airlines 747, and we wound up in first class, which was upstairs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And they actually were carving a roast. I mean, they had one of those snack trays rolling down the aisle, and they were carving this, and I was like,
Wow.
that's a whole different world now. I mean, maybe Emirates still does it, but it was like that was just a regular American flight. New York to San Francisco. You'd be sitting there watching the guy like you're at some wedding and you're at the roast beef table. So it's a different world from now. But I think, like Hal said, it's so much better. You can do anything awful for 3 hours. You fold yourself up in a ball and just pull the hood over your head, and you wake up and you're in Hawaii or something. It just let it be.
I have to say really quickly, when I was at Microsoft and we would do business trips, the Microsoft rule for travel was, I believe it was longer than 5 hours, then they would allow you to buy business class instead of coach. And so I was headed to Europe for something, and I was on SAS, Scandinavian Airways, and I've got a strong personal connection to that airline. But I was on an A340, and so up in business class, and there was these little things like, I don't know about you guys, like when I'm on a flight, like the last thing I ever want to do ever is sort of push the call button and bother some flight attendant and say, "Excuse me, could I just have a little more water? I will literally die of thirst." That button.
Yeah.
And on this SAS flight, there was a little station there with just tons. It was dozens of bottles of water and snacks and everything else. If you want it, just go get it. And then the weirdest thing though was I got up and I used the restroom, and the restroom was, I mean, I've never said this on an airline. The restroom was so big. It actually, it took up 2 windows.
Wow.
There were actually two windows worth. So you could stand up, you could sit down, you could turn around.
Wow.
And I said, why would I, I don't even want to go back to my seat. I got everything I need right here.
I have
Open
not
the door real quick,
stood.
grab another bottle of water.
I have
slam
not
the
stood
door.
fully erect in a airplane bathroom since maybe 1985, maybe I don't know, 83.
You can have Quasimodo style.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That
was amazing.
I have an A340. You brought up Airbus, and I used to work for one of the companies that was a participant of Airbus, and the A340s when they first came out had a terrible problem with their plumbing. The plumbing was close to the walls, and it would freeze at high altitude after a while.
Oh wow!
And this happened if you go into any Airbus, you'll have a mid-deck. Or mid-fuselage lavatories, and they're right in the middle. It's like right in the middle of coach. You just got to kind of wander in front of people.
Yeah.
And my son was going from Boston to Buenos Aires, and so he went to Miami and then flew to Buenos Aires. And I said, are you going to be on Airbus? And he said, yeah. I said, well, use the restrooms early because they're going to close half of them.
Oh my
And
God.
so he told his wife, if you got to go, she said, how would you know that? My dad told me, oh, come on. So sure enough, they were somewhere over Brazil, and they made the announcements, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to ask you not to use the mid-deck labs. But they've fixed that problem. So if you're flying on an A340, don't worry about it anymore.
Thank God.
Where else are you going to get advice like that? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I mean, how many other Movies by Minute podcasts?
I just came to talk about Indiana Jones going back in time, and then we're learning about when and how to poop on an Airbus.
Well, how can you go over a little bit about the flat spin that the Nord was in?
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's, it's just sort of, it's kind of done for just dramatic effect. I mean, they both go through, and they both sort of lose their engines, and they're sort of tumbling, and it's about as close to a flat spin as sort of anything else. And to spin, if anyone is sort of curious, it's a maneuver in an airplane, and it's one of those things that can happen to any kind of a spin, flat spin being the worst. A spin can happen to you by accident. If you're at a point where your airplane is too slow and your controls are uncoordinated and things, then the airplane will sort of go into a spin. And so it's a maneuver you have to know how to recover from. But it's one of those things that every several years, the FAA, for a while, says you have to go out and do spins and practice them at high, safe altitudes.
Oh, wow.
So you know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
And then they say, no, it's too dangerous to even practice them. So we're just going to tell you how to get out of it should you ever stumble into it.
Wow.
And then they change their minds again and things like that. So I'm always grateful that I've had that training, sort of more than once.
Oh, good.
But it's hard to say sort of what would really happen. Not to shift gears too much, but I know, Jim, you made a reference. So we were talking earlier about, one of my favorite sound effects.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
In this
is
particular
minute.
I
So
think
you guys
Pete
have,
Plummer
I'm sure,
agrees with
picked
you.
up. Yeah, you hear a bit of the.
I'm not comfortable with it in this context.
the hyperdrive failure
Yeah,
thing.
I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable with that on a Nazi plane, to be honest.
Well,
with you.
I mean,
The engine
you
doesn't know
shouldn't
it's
be.
Nazi, Pete. It's okay. It's just a machine.
it doesn't make any sense. It's just sort of thrown in. I don't know if it's even just a sort of a Lucasfilm type Easter egg to just say,
Yeah.
hey,
Maybe.
we trained you 50 years ago to know that this means an engine's not working like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
that,
that's fine.
sort of descending fear
Yeah.
sound. And I'm sure you guys know that's from an inertial starter that was
Okay.
used on airplanes, like largely in the late 20s, would have been around the time frame, both military and civilian. And instead of having like a battery and electric starter that would swing the propeller and stuff, or prior to that, you would have, the old barnstormer days, and the guys out there and the pilot says contact, and the other guy swings the prop,
Yeah.
starts it up, stuff like that. So in between those times, there was a few different ways to start it, and the inertial starter was one of them. And it was basically like a big, like a flywheel, or almost like a big sort of a gyroscope inside the airplane. And a mechanic would walk up, or sometimes the pilot would do that themselves. And you have this giant crank, like you picture like an old starter on a Model A or something, but they would crank and crank and crank, and you'd hear this thing just whining and whining and whining and spooling up until it's, several zillion RPM, and then it's got enough energy to it that the pilot then sort of engages it. Then it has enough power and momentum to turn the propeller, and hopefully enough to start the engine. And that sound you hear is when it doesn't start, and then that gyro starts sort of unwinding and spooling.
okay,
That's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I've
'Cause, I
only
mean-
heard it a couple of times, because it's it's a fascinating bit of equipment, but it's, there's no real reason, even on a restored airplane where you're going for accuracy. You don't really need one now. We have electric starters and things, but like the Plains of Fame in Chino, California has this magnificent Boeing P-26 P shooter from the late 20s, and they've got the inertial starter on that, and that's really a kick to hear that crank up.
Because until I heard like the Millennium Falcon failing in The Empire Strikes Back, like that sound to me was just like, oh, Bugs Bunny did something wrong. Like it was strictly from Warner Brothers cartoons,
Right.
And I
You
think
think
it's
it's Carl Stalling there leading a bunch of violins and doing that sort of thing.
So like it did just sort of become like oral shorthand for, oh, the plane's not going good.
Right.
It's failing.
Would you
that-
really see flames when the engine kicks in?
You could see some flames like that. Some airplanes in particular, especially when we're flying at night, like the Lockheed Constellation, an airliner from the 40s is very famous. You see one flying over at night, and you just see like little jets of blue flame.
Wow!
Out of almost like every cylinder on all 4 engines and stuff. It's also possible to get what's called a stack fire on starting too, and that's in effect you've got a condition where the airplane, it's not quite flooded, but it's got a bit too much gas, and so you get a flashy sort of burst of fire that comes out.
Wow.
I do have to point out that right toward the end of this minute, in our fictitious Heinkel-Schmidt 110/11 bomber, the sounds that it making when it's trying to restart, those are of a big radial engine, not inline V12s like the Daimler-Benz engines would have been on that airplane.
Is it true? Like you see this a lot in movies, like when they're in the Nord and they're trying to pull up out of the spin. Is it true that it's really, really, you have to put a huge amount of pressure behind the stick to pull it back up, like they do in this and in movies?
Oh, if I were on stage and you were in the audience, I would accuse you of being a plant.
That's a very interesting question.
That's a terrific question. So, in a case like that, if you're in a spin, in effect, what's happening is both wings are stalled, which means they're not producing lift, but you're spinning in circles because in effect one wing is stalled worse than the other. So one wing is still producing a little bit of lift, so that's why you're getting that circular rotation. So it's at that point, the controls are actually, for the most part, they're going to be pretty light. It's going to require there's not going to be much resistance. It's going to be kind of mushy.
Wow.
In fact, you could be moving that stick all the way around and not really getting any response.
Oh, weird.
Now in a spin, I think we do see in one of the shots, I think it may be of the bomber, we see them, and maybe it is the Nord, but we see somebody sort of stomping on the rudder with their feet,
Oh yeah.
So that's
it goes to full deflection. I think we see the twin tail, and it's going
that's right.
back and forth.
It's sort of going back and forth. So you're using rudder, and that's because there's still some airflow going over the tail. So the rudder, independent of the ailerons on the wings, which the wings are stalled, so those control surfaces aren't doing you much. There's a chance that the rudder will be the thing that will help at least slow down that rotation.
Wow.
But then the other thing you're doing, even if you're low to the ground, and this is where it gets really disconcerting, why spins can be dangerous, is because the airplane is stalled, no matter what, you have to point that nose down.
Right.
And get diving down, get air flowing over the wings again, and get it sort of, get it where it's under control, and then, finish the spin and then pull out. Pulling out of a dive, if you're going really, really fast, you're diving straight down and now suddenly you're flying again, those controls are going to stiffen up. But I burst out laughing in the quote unquote the non-1970s Midway movie. And there's a scene where a guy's in the Dauntless dive bomber. He goes off the end of the carrier, and it's heavy and it's slow, and he's right on the verge of a stall, and he's all but got his feet on the instrument panel, and he's yanking back on that stick so hard. And in real life, you would have, 2 fingers on that stick.
That's crazy.
You would be holding it lightly.
This is blowing my mind.
Close to the water as you could to build up enough speed to climb out.
This is the opposite of every movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, you need to be fighting that thing, and
that's why it's fun to go to
life.
movies with.
Way to ruin it. Way to ruin it. He will never go to the movies again.
One more thing to not believe in.
Right, exactly. But yeah, you're just in that state where it's a delicate touch, and if you're stalled and you're super low to the ground or the water, well, you got to put the nose down, but everything in you is telling you, I want to pull back because I don't want to hit the water, the big flat thing. So that's that challenge. But
man,
anyway,
that sounds scary.
Well,
I have
that stuff.
I have a mildly crude connection to another MCU movie to make here, because we're talking. Helena comes up through the thing just like Captain America does. This plane looks a little bit like the one from Red Skull, but in Thor Ragnarok, there's this vortex in the sky, not unlike this one, but it's like kind of pointed down. All this detritus from the universe is coming through it. And it's kind of gross and ugly. This one is really kind of beautiful. This kind of what they're about to fly into. This kind of it's a dark clouds, but then it's kind of like sunlit, just pretty vortex. In Thor Ragnarok, they call that the devil's anus, so I would like to call this God's anus, if we can do that. Is that okay? Can we get away?
Is there a second?
I don't know. Yeah.
I had a question about that. Do you think that is it looks like the ending of Raiders, like where everything, the Ark goes up and all the Nazis go up into heaven.
Yeah.
This looks like the exact same thing, but it's sideways.
Why do Nazis keep going to heaven and having beautiful, angelic?
Well, maybe they're getting sucked into Syracuse. You never know.
Maybe.
Maybe
Syracuse should be
what's
littered
going
with
on.
melted Nazis when they get there.
But did any of you guys catch the dizzying trombone?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a little, like, they show the vortex and it goes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I missed
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No,
Oh, interesting.
I was fascinated by how quiet everything got when they went.
I love
Yeah,
that.
that was
That was
nice.
beautiful.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
rare
nice.
moment in movies.
It reminded me of prequel with prequel Star Wars with Boba Fett getting.
Oh, the best part of the entire prequel
Jango- yeah.
trilogy?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No
Attack of
music,
the
no
Clones.
John Williams
Yeah.
out to lunch and
Yeah.
off. They're getting
Right.
shot up like another aerial battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But-
just that
and-
crazy
oh, that-
sonic
that-
blast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
very
that-
exciting.
That was the feeling that I had.
Yeah.
Supposedly that was Ben Burt. He just threw that in there. He's like, "Oh, I want to try this with just like drop out the sound and then
Yeah.
bring it
Who's
in."
And then who's got a trombone? Yeah. so Jim, I went back and forth through this because we were talking offline earlier in our other show about that sound effect, and I thought at first you were referring to the Stuka siren, and I think I hear it in this minute just a little bit. But I don't.
Yeah.
What's your? Do you think it's there?
It's faint in the. I know what you
Yeah.
mean. It's that. Yeah. It's just that weird. It's like a very distant sound. It's not
Yeah.
up. It doesn't sound like there's Stuka sirens on the
Right.
on there.
But that's another thing we're talking. What sort of oral shorthand that we've seen in movies since
Yeah, the
since
Doppler.
the Blitzkrieg, since
Yeah,
1939. That if an airplane is diving,
it makes
this
that Stuka
siren
sound.
noise
Yeah.
starts to happen, and it just doesn't unless you're in a Stuka with a siren
Yeah.
on it.
But
But it became one of those things. We've heard it in hey, the nose is pointing down,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I pointed the
Yeah.
nose down in an airplane, and there were no sirens
No,
at
you're
all.
doing
No,
it
no.
wrong.
Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny would be fighting it out, and and then the robot, then the robot pilot would come out, take a look around, and grab the last parachute.
And then Bugs Bunny would yank on the air brakes,
Yes.
and stop the airplane 3 feet off the ground and climb out. Live happily
and-
ever after.
Tom, you being in suburban Chicago, there's a beautiful Stuka in the
Yeah.
Field Museum. The
Oh,
it's-
yeah,
and
I
it's
think I've seen it.
it's in diving position. And if you look at the wingtips, you can see the sirens
siren.
on there.
Oh, that's very
And
cool.
Gorgeous.
that airplane was restored by volunteers and employees of the place where I work many
that's
years
amazing.
ago.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
I keep thinking it'd be really cool if we snuck in there and took it back.
Yeah.
'Cause that is
Or just get on a ladder and blow through the horn.
right.
Yeah, until they
Before
ask
there
you.
was there's a restoration of a Stuka in the Seattle area that was part of Paul Allen's collection. It was very, very close to flying before he died, but they're still working on it, and it will fly, and that's going to be incredible.
Wow.
Prior to that one coming together, there were two complete Stukas in the world. So
Wow.
the one in Chicago and then
Wow.
the one at the RAF Museum in London. So that one will be
man.
number 3, and it will actually, fly, or at least it's conceivably quite capable. Of
Wow,
flying one
wow.
day.
That's
But,
amazing.
But yeah, that airplane is a real, crazy rare artifact in the museum of science and industry. What's it called now? It's got a name, like the
It's the field.
Oh, they
is
did
it-
name it.
no,
Well, there's the Field
the-
Museum
no,
and
the
the
Field
Museum
Museum
of
separate.
Science
That's
and
like
Field
Industry.
Museum is separate. Okay, yeah, that's natural history. I'm
science
sorry.
and
Yeah.
industry. It's like the so and so, like the OK.
Yeah, not the
Museum
not
of
the
Science and
not the
Industry.
Adler. The Adler's the other science.
That's the
That's the
planetarium.
planetarium. Yeah.
planetarium. Yeah.
It's
And
like the Horton
They
or
did
the-
just name it. They named the
Yeah.
Science and Industry.
And they've got that beautiful. Speaking of Hal's folks work for United Airlines, it's that beautiful
Oh,
United
yeah.
that you can walk through. That's part of a
727
balcony.
mounted
Yeah,
on the balcony.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, wow.
really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. They flew that into Meigs Field, that 727, and there's great video of it
Oh, cool.
plopping the 727 down on a pretty short runway that now no longer exists.
Yes.
Why is the Stuka so rare? Is it just because every single one of them got shot down at the end of the war?
That's part of it, and there wasn't a whole lot of sentimentality about
Yeah, I
giving
guess
to
that
the
makes
German
sense.
stuff.
Yeah.
We thought, we won. Let's just get rid of most of this crap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why surviving German aircraft really of any kind of World War II are pretty unusual. We're talking about the French built versions, the Spanish built versions. Those sort of let us have those airplanes. Even if they happen to have been built post war. If you go back and watch the 1969 Battle of Britain film, you've got a dozen Heinkel 111s that were active duty in the Spanish Air Force at the time, even in 1969, but built in the, designed in the 40s. But those were all built slightly post-war by the Spanish, again, under that, hey, no royalties kind of rule. And then the fighters were, sort of Messerschmitt 109s up until the engine, and then they had British Rolls-Royce engines on them, but they're very credible stand-ins for 109s, even though some of them were built in the 50s.
There's a greater number of Junker 88s too, aren't there? Have there been many reproductions? I mean, I know Iron Annie is one of them, but
you're thinking of the 52.
52, excuse me. Yes.
So I know of 188 at the Air Force Museum in Dayton. I'm not, so there may well be others, but yeah, the JU 52. I think those survived a little bit better because they were an airliner first.
Yeah, I mean
they sort of went into airline service after. So
yeah, they were the contemporary of the trimotor, the Ford.
Right. Very similar. In fact, just sort of a low wing kind of counterpart to the Ford trimotor. And Jim, you and I've talked about Martin Caden, who
yes,
he owned a German JU-52, and so you picture that as a sort of a light to medium transport, paratroopers jumping out of it, stuff like that. And so this guy had it, restored it. He used to fly it out here to Oshkosh all the time. And then sort of like somewhere along the way, he wrote a book called Cyborg, which then became the $6 Million Man.
Oh, my God.
Wow. And also wrote a little book called Marooned, which later turned into a Columbia Pictures
yes,
film.
That's right.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Let me ask you guys, obviously you guys are experts on planes. How do you feel about boats? Like, I'm just curious. It's like, I assume you enjoyed planes from like the time you were like 4 or 5 or 6. So like,
it goes
when
back
you
a
were
little
a
further
kid
than that for me.
and you're in the bathtub, were you just like, nah, dude, I don't do boats?
Yeah.
It's really funny you mentioned that, because I was just having this conversation with a friend at work today, and because another friend of mine once said that some people are kind of born with the transportation gene.
Oh, okay.
So like, for me, it's sort of airplanes first, but ocean liners are a big thing for me. I was married on board the Queen Mary.
wow.
Tremendous romantic
Beach?
views of, in Long Beach, tremendous romantic views of Cunard and the golden days there. Since before I'd ever seen one or had any idea what it was, I would have told you that I really have a soft spot for a barrelback Chris Craft. But I don't know really anything about it. And I put trains in that same category. My dear friend and esteemed colleague Jim knows trains far better than I do. But like I was just telling, it's funny you mentioned it, just telling a few hours ago about going to the National Railroad Museum in Green Bay. And we're going through this, and there's so much cool stuff. And I'm used to sort of going to a museum where here's a bunch of old vehicles and signage and artifacts and things. And I'm used to sort of going through there and, hey, there's one of those, and there's one of those, and I know a story about this, and I know a story about that. And I was walking through there, and it's like I felt like that should be happening. It was almost like I was having a stroke. It's like that's a really cool looking train.
I can't remember how.
Why don't I know this stuff? Oh, it's because I haven't obsessed over it for 50 years. That's all. But the affection and appreciation is there.
Is there a form of transportation that you don't care about at all, like a stagecoach?
Hovercraft's right out right now.
Come on, hovercrafts. They're boats.
They've got
and
that
they fly,
one at the U.S. Air Force Museum, Jim, that you like.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Where do you draw the line?
That's a really interesting question.
Are you type certified on a Grumman Goose? I was just trying to figure out what
Oh yeah, so multi-engine. I've never flown anything multi-engine. I've flown seaplanes before, and I've sat in a Grumman Goose. I sat in an HU-111 once, in fact, too. But boy, Jerry, I'm going to be up all night trying to find a mode of transportation I just don't care about one way or the other.
We are talking with a fellow who is type rated on a dirigible.
Well,
really? Wow.
I've got an hour in a Goodyear Zeppelin. Yes, I do. And,
wow,
nice.
So it's not quite a type rating, but Jim's my PR guy.
It's weird when you appreciate and even love a kind like anything, like anything in life, but you don't become obsessed with it. That's like
Right.
like you are with trains, Hal. You appreciate them and you like them a
Yeah.
lot. You're kind of excited about them, but I don't know how they work. I don't know.
Well, I
to-
kind of kept them actively kept them at arm's length. That
Okay.
I've been close. I've been teetering on the brink before. I mean, we had really nice German Markland trains when I was a kid. My brothers did, and I played with those. During my time at Microsoft, I would fill in as needed when Flight Simulator was quiet and Train Simulator was going.
Train. Oh.
My name is in the credits for Train Simulator,
Oh,
or
wow.
at least 1 or 2 versions and stuff like that.
I bought that for my dad.
And
a long
so
time
say,
ago.
hey, this is pretty cool, and then they say, okay, hang on, stop, put the needle down.
I'm already obsessed with other stuff.
Right, step away from the locomotive and the rolling stock, and let's go look at airplanes for a while. There's only room for so much.
Yeah.
The question that I found is a great icebreaker when you're talking with people. If you're watching Jeopardy, what is the category that you dread? That you say, I don't know anything about that, and I don't. If you start throwing me the $100 question, I'm not going to get it. And mine is opera. I know like Carmen and then Nutcracker, and after that, forget it.
I know
Like
the
something
Barber
from
of
other pop
Seville,
culture.
of course,
Yeah.
because of Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd.
But
Yeah.
even that's like you'll get past the 100 level.
Maybe if
Yeah.
For
Oh,
me,
yeah.
that level it would be sports. It
Yeah.
would be
Okay,
just,
yeah.
say in the 1974, World Series, blah 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 blah. And my answer is, I just hope both teams had fun. That's all I
Exactly.
I can tell you how
absolutely.
they showed up at the stadium.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not watching the Indiana game to ruin it for you.
Oh, no, yeah.
Oh my gosh, and they're ahead by 6. No,
Oh, geez.
no, they're
I think Pierre's watching in the background. I think that's like the Bears were. I think they're out of it by now as we're recording, but they were on the brink of they were in the running for the playoffs or whatever they call it. And I was asking Jer and other people just give me 5 bullet points of things I can say to people when they come up to me. Hey, those Bears! I'm like, yup,
Oh, man.
yes, the Bears. I
There was
agree.
Yes, the Bears. There was a buddy
affirmative.
that I worked with at Microsoft who I was always trying to teach him about Star Wars, and he was always trying to teach me about sports.
Oh wow.
And we were talking about baseball one time. So if anybody ever starts a baseball discussion with you, as soon as they stop, just tell them, it's all about the bullpen. and I just tucked that away in the back of my mind, and then I'll never forget. Like my wife and I were test driving a car, and we're driving along, and she's in the back, and I'm driving, and then the slick sales guy's in the right seat, and we're cruising along. And he goes, how about them Mariners, huh? And I said, it's all about the bullpen. And this guy talked for another 20 minutes. Oh my God. So many people just don't get that, like me.
magic.
It's amazing.
Great
That's such
line.
good insight. And he went on and on and on about the strengths and weaknesses of the Mariners bullpen at the time. And my wife, of course, is just cracking up in the back.
I imagine
buying
you
it.
should just talk about, the Bears, they take an A15 to get to their stadium whenever they play an away game. That usually flies about 630 miles an hour. And
God help them if they're on the Airbus and they wait half an hour to use the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
You better go to the bathroom early.
Yeah.
We've all learned that.
All of this, by the way, sounds like you could accidentally find yourself in the middle of a covert thing. Like your response was supposed to be, it's all about the bullpen.
Yeah.
And now the guy gives you the
Exactly.
microfiche and you don't know what to do with it.
Right.
Speaking of the bullpen,
Oh,
Hey.
oh my God. Somebody's
coming in closing for the ninth. We have this just in from Professor Christy Porter.
Oh,
Where does this scene put Belloc's famous line, "You and I are passing through history, but this is history"?
oh, interesting.
Isn't
This is-
everything history?
Kinda,
Because does that
Right
line
after it
work
happens.
always?
sorta.
Well, he does. I mean, yesterday belongs to us.
That's
Yeah,
that's a great line.
Which is
That's a
right
great
out of
line.
it's like tomorrow belongs to me. I mean that's what turning it on its head. I really
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Great
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
It is. There are a few little like Bellocky things in these minutes because I made the gag about the staff. His staff is too long, whatever, so he's not going back to the 1939. But he calls him Jurgen here.
I love that. That's
And there's
such a nice moment.
Yeah.
It's just a little. He's needling him a little bit.
Is he needling him, or is he like, hey, look, drop all the Nazi stuff, all the whatever stuff?
I think
like,
he's
I'm a
needling him.
scientist, you're a scientist, whatever we are. Like, Jurgen, you're screwing up.
I think he's needling. Like he's like, we're equals now. I know more about this than you do. I feel like that's a. I know as much about rocket science and traveling through time as you do.
Moon schmoon.
Yeah.
no more hair doctor for you.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Well, guys, thank you so much, Jim and Hal.
This is awesome.
This has been
Thanks,
awesome.
guys.
We've just been stuck talking to the three of ourselves for long enough that it's good to have a couple of breaths of fresh air to steer us in other interesting directions. So thank you.
Well, thanks to you. Thanks for y'all for being on the show. I know Jerry was busy, but thank y'all for being on our show.
Oh, of course.
Jim's saying thanks to everybody but Jerry.
Yeah.
Everybody but Jerry.
Jerry, we still have room, Jerry. So
there's always room for Jerry.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for having us.
2 windows in that thing.
Swing a dead cat in there.
Exactly. I'm not saying Jerry and I would both fit in that bathroom, but I don't know.
It's worth a try.
Buy me a drink and see what happens.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you everyone listening, and please come back next week for the next 3 minutes of Dial of Destiny right here on the good old Indiana Jones Minute.
Do it, Tommy. Do it. Say it. Your calculations are wrong. Say it.
Your calculations are wrong. I can't take it anymore.
Your calculations are wrong. Have you ever heard Indy sound like that before?
No, it's disturbing. I'm on his side, and I'm on the moment side, but it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
He's almost like he's teetering on insane.
Yeah.
Well, and he's an 80-year-old man.
Yeah.
We had talked with. I'm sorry, I didn't bring this up during the show, but we talked with Lola, the people that de-aged everybody in this.
Oh, wow.
And
right. Yeah.
they de-aged Indy really good, but they didn't work any of the audio. So
it's
this young Indy with 80-year-old.
Yeah.
80-year-old Harrison Ford
Smoking 3 packs a day.
Yeah.
Acting.